Good day, everyone. This is Spikes from Children of the Sun, and you are now on the YouTube channel Dawn of a Revolution. Today, I'm going to discuss a couple of things about gangsterism and the gangbanging culture. Before I start, first and foremost, I want to apologize for my last video because I had some complaints in the comment section that the audio wasn't good. Y'all were like not hearing me clearly, so I'm going to try to fix it in this video. Alright. I hope everyone is having a good day and enjoy your times with your family, your friends, and your loved ones. Now, without any further ado, let me start this video and get right into it. Gangsterism in black culture. The question is it really needed? Do we need it, and let's study what gangsterism is and what the gang culture really signifies, for most of y'all know what the origins of gangs is. It started with the mob families. It started with the Sicilian mob. So then after that words came the Italian mob. The Sicilian mobs in the early 1800s and the Italian mobs in the early 1800s. They started like family and the mob families, and then they came to New York. And they did that, of course, to protect the assets of their family in the manner of organized crime. And those organized crimes in the families, they protected their community, and it was to protect the assets and the wealth because they felt like they were being picked on. Of course, in a place like New York, you're going to deal with different cultures. But the very first official gang, not the mob families, but that's the origins of the gangs. The official gang, as far as we know, is the gang and gangsterism, where they started clicking up, was the Irish. The Irish gangs, they started like clicking up together and to protect themselves from the other people that were there. So such as the Russians, Italians, the Chinese, people try to bully you, so that's also to protect the interest. And also they wanted to sell like whatever organized crime they did, whatever criminal things they did, like sell illegal alcohol and tobacco and beer and such, So that's the origins. But basically it was to protect their neighborhood and their communities. Now, with that said, I'm not going to go into all the details and stuff, but what I'm trying to get at is when you look at countries such as, when you look at those peoples, like such as the Irish, they're Ireland, they have their own country, they have a nation. When you look at the Italians, Sicilians, they have a nation, they have a country, Besides continental Africans from the motherland, they have their own nation, they have their own country. When we talk about the Western culture, because most of these gangbanging, black culture gangbanging, we talk about Western culture. We talk about blacks from the inner city England, inner city London. We talk about the Caribbeans and African American blacks and youths. They have a variety of different gangs. The gangs over there in LA, the obvious, the Bloods and Crips. The Midwest gangs with the DBs, the Black Disciples, GDs, the Gangster Disciples, and the Vice Lords and the Midwest gangs, and they have the East Coast gangs as well. So, and then you have the BMF. You already know the BMF from Detroit, Michigan, Detroit. So on the East Coast gangs, and they used to run all the way across the East Coast of America. Well, with that said, all these different gangs, we don't really like the Western blacks. We are descendants from colonization, most of us slavery or history erased. Because of that, we don't really have a nation, so to speak. So with the gang, we don't really have something to fund our country or our nation for. We just like when these other organized, like when these other cultures and these other communities and cultures, the gangs, like they do gangsterism and participate in mob business and gangsterism, such as the Sicilian family. The Sicilian family, they were Jewish Sicilian. They were not purely Sicilian, but they was also part of the Jewish gangs, They fund the interest, organized crime, which means they're established in either the banking system, the educational system, the political systems, political parties. They're well positioned into society and government ranks, So they are people with function, people with, and I think black culture, when you talk about black gangsters and the gangbanging and clicking, doesn't really benefit the black community. Most of what we do, we claim we protect our neighborhood because we fight over turf, of course, over streets, and we protect our neighborhood. Yet at the same time, the most we do is kill each other. And then besides, not only the fact that we kill each other over communities and neighborhoods that ain't even ours. Most of the rent we pay still belongs to a Chinese or belongs to a Jew. The Chinese, the rental property for Chinese, Italian, or Jew, they are the property owners. The Chinese, the Italians, and the Jews, not the black people from the Western cultures. And this is all over the Western world. Europe, UK, England, North America, Caribbean, and South America. This is what we're going to be dealing with. That's the truth and the reality, the harsh reality of the situation. We don't own the properties, we don't own the territories, but we claim it as ours. And who do we punish? Are the blacks. Well, in the Midwest, they had different type of movements. Now, all over America, they had different type of movements in the early 1900s. So the early 20th century, with the coming and emerging of Marcus Messiah Garvey, and with the RBG movement, the Pan-Africanist movements that came over America, they had the founding of the FBI, and they had J. Edgar Hoover as the head of the FBI and the founder of the FBI. And the sole purpose at the time for the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, was to dismantle radical, extreme, domestic radical organizations, such as the communist organizations, of course, with the communism and the communist philosophies and stuff and doctrines, but also Pan-African philosophies and black Afrocentric organizations. This is the main reason, of course. J. Edgar Hoover was targeting people such as Marcus Garvey, and he was also targeting several other black Pan-Africanists at the time, and that's why he created them, and he had agents there. Now, fast forward, going on to the 60s, the mid to late 60s, he was also targeting the two obvious, having them under investigation, the Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. Well, by the assassination, before the assassination of Martin Luther King, most of the black gangs in America, they had, all over the country, they were still, even though it was a gang, they still had like Pan-Africanist or pro-black philosophies under it, That was before, of course, the Black Panther movements and the activisms. They had a certain type of discipline and doctrine. Even where you go at the gangs in the Midwest and the Chicago gangs, such as the Vice Lords, they had certain Islamic, Muslim principles and philosophies and doctrine towards them. When you look at the Vice Lords, they had that. They had some kind of in their gang activities, they still had some Islamic principles and Muslim principles in them. And they were following it. And even though Martin Luther King, he was a Christian himself, they still followed him. That shows you that it had nothing to do with gangs or cliques or organization or religion. Because even though they had Islamic concepts and principles in their gangs, they still were avid activists and fighters for Martin Luther King. Now, when the assassination occurred of Martin Luther King, all over America, like all the inner cities, from the inner city of New York, the inner city of Chicago, LA, all over America, black people started a riot. Gangs came together, different gangs, different organizations, they came together and in protest because they were in unity. That's what I'm saying. There was no, even though when Martin Luther King was alive, the such thing as the Bloods and the Crips, thing that came afterwards, the Bloods came afterwards. There were no too much rival factions. Even though there were different gangs out there, you were still working in unity. And Chicago is a good example, such as the Vice Lords and the GDs. They were working together. The GDs, the Vice Lords, and the BDs, they were working together, even though they were like rival cliques or whatever. At that time, they were working together for the common good, because it was to give black people at least working opportunities and to improve the neighborhoods, of course. When he was assassinated, that's when everything went. So that was the purpose. What I'm trying to say is the purpose for the FBI was to really dismantle all these black organizations. So not just gang culture, but also black militant activist organizations. When those leaders such as Malcolm X and Martin Luther King were assassinated, the black community all over North America and all over the Western world, they really had no leader or a figure they could follow or look up to. That's when those organizations and the black gangs became disorganized and they start looking at themselves. Of course, following that was the importation of crack cocaine. No, sorry, the introduction of heroin, brought of course by the government. And then the government brought heroin, such as crack cocaine, in our neighborhoods and the communities, which led us to fight and kill each other over drugs. Of course, more weapons came, make you wonder, where do all the machine guns come from? Because we don't really have machine guns like that. Talk about Russian machine guns. Russian machine guns do not come in our area. Like we don't have access like that. It's the same government that drops it off in a pile, in a box in our neighborhoods, so we can attack and kill each other. And really, instead of unifying, so the gangs need to be unified. They really need to get ready in a manner to improve and be in the benefit of our own community. That's the whole purpose of being a gangster. If you want to take the route and take the gangster route, And of course, educate yourself and put yourself in strategic positions in society, so you can also benefit not only your community more, your culture more, but also the gang more. That's how you stand stronger as a gang and also make money legally, of course. Now, with all these things recently, fast forward now to modern days, it's up to a couple months ago with the Venezuelan immigrants in Chicago. What I'm hearing right now is that the black gangs started organized and unified together because they have the Venezuelan gangs is coming over and they want to take over the turf, they want to take over the city. So now different black factions, different sets, different black gangs are coming together, unifying because they're going to run out the Venezuelans. They say it's going to be an all-out war. Well, I say it's a good thing because that's what the gangster actually is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be about culture and unity first and foremost. The difference is between other gangs and other cultures. For example, the Russian mobs, the Italian mobs, they have different mob families. Same thing with the Russians. They have different mob families to the equivalent that we have different gangs. Like they say Russian gangs, Italian gangs. We might have different gangs, the Bloods and Crips. And also the underneath sub-gangs, like different sets. They have different families, of course. And sub-families as well. But then at the end of the day, one thing, they abide by the rules and principles. For example, an Irish gang is not allowed to fight or kill another Irish gang member. They go with the Don. The same thing with the Italian gangs. Italian gangs are not allowed to kill their own. Jewish gangs are not allowed to kill their own. Unless if they really have a beef, they have to settle it out and resolve the dispute in approval with the Don, the head of all the families. They're not allowed to kill each other. They go in all-out war with other gangs. For example, you're going to see the Italian gang is going to have an all-out war with the Russians. Or, for example, the Russians are going to have an all-out war with the Irish. They're going to kill each other. But amongst each other, they do not kill gangs in their own culture. That's one of the unspoken rules. While we black people, we killing each other left to right. Black folks, we kill each other. We're not organized. We claim to be organized. We claim to be a gang, but we're not organized crime. There's a difference between being in a gang and being in an organized crime. And that's what real gangsters were about. The original gangsters, the original gang families and gang members were organized. We are disorganized, so we cannot be official. We try to imitate these other people so much. My honest opinion is bullshit. It's very much bullshit. We don't really, gang culture doesn't fit the black people from the Western world. None of that shit fits us. Like, we try to imitate the Italians. We try to imitate some kind of a Scarface. We try to imitate Al Pacino, Al Capone. Like, that shit don't work for us. Like, that's not our culture. We are warriors by nature, but that gangsterism is not our culture. We should stick to nationalism. Focus on creating a nation. That's the first and foremost thing. Well, if we're going to do this gang thing, make it work in our benefit. And I want to see you, once again, I want to say, today, this new generation, the YNs, you know what I mean with the YNs, the young folks in the Midwest, I'm very proud of y'all. I'm very proud of the Chicago gangs right now, currently, because this is for the first time since the death of Martin Luther King that y'all started unify for a common good to really fight the enemy, and which is the non-blacks, which is the white supremacist oppressors, which is the racist Hispanics and the conquistadors, also the Venezuelans, because they're hella racist, and you gotta kill their ass. Because they're coming for your ass, and it's good that you gun up, that you war up and gear up, and fight the ass back. So I'm really proud of y'all, Chicago brothers and sisters. So that's my opinion, what I gotta say about gang culture. I don't think it has no place for us outdated, but if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna follow gang culture, make sure it's in the benefit of your own culture and your own nation, and it's going towards nation building. Well, that's all I have to say. If you have anything to add to it, just leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment in the comment section. All right, y'all folks, y'all have a blessed one, have a good one.